It matters education now, and this year's KCSE exam has entered day 2. Education CS Professor George Magoha says early exposure or the opening of materials before the stipulated time remains a key concern in the efforts to prevent cheating.
Magoha spoke earlier this morning as he supervised the distribution of examination materials here in Nairobi. And let's link up with Makori Ongechi, who is covering that story. Makori, yes, we see a situation yesterday in Kibra, I believe, of a school that had a paper exposed before its time by a supervisor, and I hear that that supervisor was arrested. How far is that, and what are the concerns this morning?
Well, good morning, Sam. Like you say, Professor Magoha has been, of course, leading the supervision of the opening and the distribution of exam papers this morning, be day 2 of the KCSE exams. But again, the major concern this morning, of course, has been that still the Ministry of NEC per se has been facing yet again the challenge of early exposure, where you find that a number of supervisors, or perhaps some of those invigilators or people who are in charge of different examination centers, just like we saw yesterday from Kibra in Olympic Primary, where Nairobi West Examination Center was being hosted, that supervisor opened those papers a bit early. The confusion that happened where the English paper 2 examination was opened instead of the English paper 1 examination early. So Magoha, in speaking this morning, probably saying that this is now the challenge again they are facing as a ministry and as the body mandated to run the examination. Of course, again mentioning different parts in the country, and particularly Nyanza, where he also mentioned yesterday. And this morning, while we spoke to him, Sam and Zinzi, is that he has still reiterated and mentioned parts of Migori, parts of Homa Bay, and specifically he has talked about Uriri sub-county, where there are claims of maybe individuals planning to cheat in examination. So even as he spoke about the challenge of early exposure, of course, he has warned that the managers or different center managers who are in charge of running those examinations should be careful. And again, warning, of course, parents, just like from yesterday, that there are sections of parents and candidates across the country who had been promised by specific individuals, according to the CS, maybe to contribute some cash in terms of preparing themselves, maybe to pay the supervisors in order to leak those papers. And so it was a warning, and some maybe we now listen to what the CS had to say earlier today, of course, when he visited the Shauri Moyo Muslim secondary school, where he also supervised the start of that examination.
There is a very hot area in Uriri where action is going on right now. I am not at liberty to tell you what we are doing, but I can assure you that the children there are getting justice and they are getting exams as required. Nationwide, I think the examination process went well. We are thankful to God for the floods. They were not a very big issue as in the primary school. And I think up to this moment, we do not, we don't have a very serious issue that has been recorded. There are a few absentees due to issues which we cannot ascertain, but I think a great number of the students have been accounted for. Going forward, I want to emphasize one fact that there are still a few, and the denominator here is a few center managers who seem to have collected a lot of money from people, and what they are trying to do is now to justify that money has to be accounted for, and so we keep watching to avoid early exposure. This is something we tell them. This morning we told them in every container, every agent that is there tells them to read and read again. And these are people who have managed schools. So you can't say you opened it by mistake. That one we cannot hold, and that's why you will be responsible for your own mistake.
Well, that was Professor Magoha, of course, warning, and of course issuing that warning to a number of those center managers that probably had earlier opened the examination papers prior to the beginning of those papers. And of course, that supervisor that was arrested yesterday has been or will be presented in court this morning. And of course, Magoha warning that the government still maintains it will be keen enough to ensure that the examination process is credible, and by the next 1 month that the examination will be going on, then that integrity of that examination is protected. Of course, security measures have been also beefed up, with the number of those officers also manning the examination centers across the country adding up. Sam Nzinzi, of course, we are following up to see. Currently, the candidates are writing the mathematics paper 1 exam ahead of the afternoon when they will be doing their chemistry paper 1 examination. Sam.